I attended the Mothman Festival every year for the years of 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. It was then canceled due to the pandemic for 2 years, and when it returned in 2022, the small town streets were hugely overcrowded with people, making it difficult or uncomfortable to move about. The festival usually had a big turnout, but this was a bit much. Due to the pandemic, social anxiety, and the crowd size increase, I skipped the Mothman Festival for 2022, 2023, and 2024. I had, after all, been there enough times to know what it's like. In 2024, I instead revisited Point Pleasant again in May to check in with the town, and then attended the smaller first annual Grafton Monster Festival in June, and the Fairmont Vegetable Man Day event in July 2024. It was fun to see those new events which I hadn't been to, and to gain new experiences. 2025 was my grand return to the Mothman Festival. The guest speakers were no longer in the historic State Theater as they had been my previous years, because the theater was sold to new owners. I attended the presentation of local researchers Joe and Ron of Wild and Weird, West Virginia, and afterwards had a great conversation with Joe Perdue about their field research, the various attempts to apply science to the paranormal, our mutual ideas about electromagnetism and high strangeness, the lights that people report to see in the sky, and of course how all of this relates to the ideas and investigations of one of my favorite Fortean authors, John Keel of the Mothman Prophecies fame. It was a good chat. I also bought one of their models of the Kecksburg, Pennsylvania UFO Acorn of 1965. I think I first encountered the Wild and Weird West Virginia team of Joe and Ron as vendors at the Mothman Festival in around 2018. At the time they were selling artwork and sculptures of West Virginia anomalies like the Mothman the Flatwoods Monster. Back at home, I soon discovered their Etsy page and their YouTube channel. And then in 2020, they started posting their own investigations on YouTube, which I thought was excellent. They weren't just artists, but also paranormal investigators. I was glad to see fellow West Virginians out there doing good work. I invited them to my Discord server at the time, which is now closed. Joe joined the server and contributed to the conversations, talking with the other server members there until around 2023. I continued to follow the Wild and Weird West Virginia YouTube page, trying and failing to attend a few of their events or workshops, but I wasn't able to see them again in person until this festival in September of 2025. You could say that I was a first-day fan of their project. Stay wild and weird. I also attended Fortean researcher Steve Ward's presentation on Ted Holiday and the Loch Ness Monster. Steve has some great knowledge on high strangeness and classic Fortean cases and authors, so I always enjoy hearing his speeches. Ted Holiday to me is one of those investigators who's high up on the list amongst the greats. When people ask me authors I recommend, I usually rattle off the following list: John Keel, Jacques Vallée, Ted Holiday, and Stan Gordon. A few others as well, but in terms of high strangeness, that's a good start. At the end of Steve Ward's talk, he revealed something quite unexpected. Jeff Wamsley, Mothman author and founder of the Mothman Museum, had interviewed more witnesses for his much-awaited third book. One of them was purported Mothman witness Connie Carpenter. Another was one of the men from the November 12, 1966 Clendenin graveyard Mothman sighting. And most shocking of all was Roger Scarberry himself from the original November 15, 1966 car chase. For years I had heard about how Roger Scarberry had refused interviews and gone silent for decades on the subject of the Mothman. In my first ever conversation with Jeff Wamsley at the Mothman Museum in 2016, almost a decade ago at this point, Jeff not only mentioned how he wanted to do a third book, but also about how Roger Scarberry had refused to talk about the subject since 1966, and wouldn't talk to Jeff about what he saw. It was always the biggest mystery for me, and I always wondered if he would come forward one day. In the presentation, Steve Ward said that Roger Scarberry, after all these decades, confirmed that yes, he did indeed see something that night, and they were truly terrified. Steve said that he couldn't say anymore and that we'd have to wait until Jeff's book came out to know, otherwise I would have asked. This to me was a huge revelation that I thought I'd never see happen. Truly a mind-blowing piece of information that just happened to be announced at the end of a Steve Ward speech.
Roger came to Jeff last summer and said, "Man, I'm tired of people telling my story and getting it wrong." So Jeff got a long-form interview with Roger Scarberry that will be in his next book. And I was not part of that. But unfortunately, it's under double secret probation. I can't read a word of it, so you'll read about it in Jeff's book. But one thing I can tell you, the day before, Roger Scarberry, when he was setting up the interview with Jeff, he said, Jeff said to him, "Roger, just tell me, did it really happen?" And Roger said, it scared the hell out of us. And very shortly after that, Connie Carpenter came forward. If you've read the book, she was the one driving past the Mason County golf course, saw this thing, received a case of conjunctivitis. So her testimony, updated, will be in his book.
My mind was buzzing intensely for weeks with this new development in a classic case. I still can't believe it. It was so neat to be there to hear this. After Steve Ward's presentation, I talked to him briefly, and he remembered me from previous festivals. We couldn't hear each other too well as the event's organizers were folding up all the chairs and emptying the room. The main thing we discussed was the part of his presentation where Steve Ward talked about the anomalous phenomena being negative or positive according to Ted Holliday, like the dragon and the disc. I mentioned to Steve some of my views on the potential unified theory of the paranormal as a concept, which was essentially the paranormal as a consciousness or neutral force of nature, like gravity, which essentially makes manifestations, materializations, or illusions which reflect back figures or concepts of humanity's folkloric zeitgeist. I was suggesting, in John Keel's rather cynical style, that perhaps the paranormal is simply a game in which the phenomenon attempts to influence mankind and therefore occasionally does things in our favor to gain a form of soft power. Otherwise, perhaps the phenomenon simply is what it is, and its unknown or mysterious motivations and mechanisms aren't purely influence, but something else. Meaning, it does as it does, and sometimes this seems in our favor, or against us, but in reality isn't. Once again, like gravity, it just is. If you fall down the stairs, you might think gravity is against you, but if an apple falls for you to eat, you might think gravity is in your favor. Neither being true, of course. Then there's even the concept that the paranormal isn't conscious or aware of what it does, and simply purely reflects from us, interfacing with the mind and manifesting these things before us without knowledge of help or harm, like the Star Trek TOS episode Shore Leave. I just don't agree with the simplistic duality angel-demon or good-evil concept, which comes to us from Zoroastrianism by way of Christianity. I'm more non-dualist and unified, or at least intersectional, in my paranormal hypotheticals. A pretty in-depth thing to try to explain over the sound of chairs clanging in the background, but hopefully I got it across. If not, here you go in narration form. I usually have no one to share such notions with, as most people don't know what the heck I'm talking about, or don't have the Fortean context I'm drawing from or commenting on. Both the Wild and Weird West Virginia and Steve Ward presentations are currently on my YouTube channel to view. Other than the guest speakers, I made my walk around the festival, checking out and filming the vendors. I also looked for fellow researcher Jimmy of Spooky Appalachia, another great regional project. I first met Jimmy online around 2022. We've talked many times via text, and I've shared research notes with him on West Virginia anomalies. I interviewed him on my channel via voice call in 2023, and I looked for him at the Grafton Monster Festival in 2024, but to no avail. I also didn't find him at the 2025 Mothman Festival. He must have been walking around a different place than me at the time, because even though he attended, I didn't run into him. We keep missing each other, it seems. Another correspondent I've known since around 2020, Micah, a big fan of Appalachian folklore and horror movies, who was in my Discord servers and YouTube comment section for years. He makes music and has a true passion for West Virginia, its strangeness, and its monsters. I managed to spot him standing in line for the Mothman mini-golf. Micah invited me to join him, but I had to catch the next guest speaker. We talked briefly and he said he'd be at the Wild and Weird presentation, but he didn't manage to make it because of the mini-golf. I looked all around for him after the talk, but he'd gone home by then. It was nice to finally see him in person, even if it was just a brief hello. When searching for Micah, I went into the Point Pleasant trading post, where they had the Mothman mini-golf to see if he was there. Jeff Walmsley's wife, from behind the counter across the room, actually recognized me instantly and called out to me. I found that really surprising, as I hadn't attended the Mothman Festival since 2019, and because I was also wearing a face mask at the time, out of concern for the large crowds. That was pretty cool, and once again unexpected, to have made any lasting impression, as I'm sure she sees thousands of people at the event over the years. I remember back in 2017 when I showed her and Jeff Walmsley my Mothman costume, back when it was much less common to see Mothman costumes wandering around the festival. Nowadays there are quite a few people with red light-up glasses and wing-shaped capes. To my eyes this time around, it seemed like there were maybe more artists and less researchers there in the tented area near the statue. Though this was the second day, the guest speakers usually show up for the first day and then leave, so maybe it was the same ratio as usual. Watching the footage back, I saw a few more that I didn't fully notice at the time with books, though perhaps not sitting at their table, such as monster researcher Ken Gerhard and anomalous researcher Joey Medea. Of course, the classic chronicler of West Virginia monster booklets, George Dudding, was there too, a mainstay of the Mothman Festival in my time of attendance. The only researchers I talked to in my brief visit this time around was of course Wild and Weird and Steve Ward. Those were my interactions and encounters at the Mothman Festival 2025. Otherwise, I was watching entertaining guest speakers and looking around at vendors, and so I don't really have any more to say for this vlog. So without further ado, here is the festival's vendors for your viewing pleasure. Enjoy, and Mountaineers are always free.
Tap is easiest. Oh, okay, so there's a lemonade stand over here, and to get this cup with the public.
Giant Kodak.
It's real, yes.
There is the Wild and Weird tent.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I meant that one. These are amazing.
I know, he is so You did. It is perfect.
One of these is a jackal.
I like all the Hodag stuff over there, it's cool.
Yeah, they have a ton of Hodag stuff.
Almost home, alien. Aliens are welcome.
Yes, check it out.
What about the one? It's always left. know which ones are going to be the most popular. I know. Take one of these too when you get home. Yeah, I was having I was looking at the one that used the black cane and all that.
But yeah, it's not in the classic.
The maximum larger ones are 40, medium sized ones are 25. These are 8, 3 for 22.
Excuse me.
Have a good day. You too.
You too, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Farming and all that stuff on every doorway. It was wild.
Smile. That's your best smile. I love it.
Big dog. Did you get a lot of that?
There we go.
Whatever, dude.
I see.
There's also a Sicilian song from the 50s.
Oh.
And it's
Oh, that's pretty good. It's already so clean.
Today, because we didn't need him yesterday. I'm so sorry.
Hey guys.
They get
more frustrated the next thing they come in. I know, but that's not it. It's custom made. I said, you can pick up any of them and read, and I told you
I saw this online before.
Yeah, she's the author.
Oh, hello.
I know this is why you now see why you're
Well, they're only on Castle. Like you don't see they don't want the idea out. They don't want we see that one. No. Oh, we won't talk about it. I can imagine. Yeah. She's not here.
There aren't as many authors as there used to be. There's a lot of it's just art now.
she would heal people. And she's like the patron saint of Appalachian, Pennsylvania Dutch. Like there's like other things about her. Her house is still there. And that whole area is powwow. You know, powwow. And the all powwow. Those guys will all like go to their house and they'll like take a Bible and they'll like hit on your head 3 times and say a incantation. It's stuff through there. And it's a real those mountains. That whole valley.
Remember that? Got more behind you too. More behind you too.
There's a creek.
Where you can go and get all your red goods. We got t-shirts, signs, stickers, and more. Come on down to the Old Egg Store.